Voice of Islam. The Voice of Islam is a weekly radio program organized by the Islamic Council of Jamaica, the umbrella organization for the Muslim community in Jamaica, to propagate the message of Islam, dispel the common misconceptions about Islam, and facilitate a medium to provide Islamic perspective on topical issues and alternative solutions. You may contact the Islamic Council of Jamaica at 648-9545. That's 648-9545. You are listening to the Voice of Islam. Before we begin, let's take a few minutes to listen to the recitation of verses selected from the final revelation to mankind, Al-Quran.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. واذكر في الكتاب مريم إذ انتبذت من أهلها مكانا شرقيا فاتخذت من دونهم حجابا فأرسلنا إليها روحنا فتمثل لها بشرا سويا قالت إني أعوذ بالرحمن منك إن كنت تقيا قال إنما أنا رسول ربك لأهب لك غلاما زكيا. And mention, O Muhammad, in the book the story of Mary when she withdrew from her family to a place towards the east. And she took in seclusion from them a screen. Then we sent to her our angel, and he represented himself to her as a well-proportioned man. She said, Indeed, I seek protection in the Most Merciful from you, so leave me if you should be fearing of Allah. He said, I am only the messenger of your Lord to give you news of a pure boy. She said, How can I have a boy while no one has touched me and I have not been unchaste? He said, Thus it will be. Your Lord says, It is easy for me, and we will make him a sign to the people and a mercy from us, and it is a matter already decreed. So she conceived him, and she withdrew with him to a remote place.
You are listening to the Voice of Islam.
Good day, listeners. Assalamu alaikum. In the name of the one God, Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful. We're not the phase when we speak about Muslims in Jamaica and within the Americas. There is a period called the indentured servitude period. And during this indentured servitude period, the British made plans before the 1834 abolition of those that were enslaved within their holdings, that they would go to India. And in going to India to bring people over on a package where they would have an agreement to work for X amount of years. But in a lot of conditions, the conditions were pretty harsh and pretty painstaking, and almost in some cases like the suffering that took place amongst the people of Africa who came there between 1500 to 1830s. But after the emancipation period that took place was completed in August of 1838, boatloads of people started coming from India, and the first recorded boatload arrived in Guyana, and then, of course, Trinidad and Suriname, which is Dutch Guyana, on the 5th of May, 1838. The 5th of May, 1838. Jamaica, as far as Jamaica is concerned, they arrived on the 10th of May in the afternoon in 1845, 2.5 miles south of Old Harbor. But the difference between these people coming from India and the people who had been enslaved and who worked the plantations for years that had come from Africa was that the Indians were generally allowed to keep their names and they were allowed to keep their religion. So you'll find in Jamaican society, Jamaican contemporary society, you'll find a man with the name of Babulal, and he will know where in India he was from. a man with the name Ramjeet Singh, Pabur Singh, Persat Singh, Khan, Nirmat, Gulab, Sukhraj. He knows where he's from. He knows that he has a direct background and connection to India. But after 350 years, when it comes to the Africans, there was a total loss. Everyone, almost everyone, had lost pride in who they were. They could not really recite any genealogical history of themselves. Culturally, there was a complete loss. Religiously, there was a cutoff because the pains that came from the harsh treatment during slavery cut them primarily off from Islam and any traditional animistic religion that was left. It was all gone. So you'll find that the majority of people coming in from India between 1838 to 1917 or 1920, the majority were Hindus and about 20% were Muslims. And then there was a percentage that were Sikhs as well, because if you have the name Jadoo Singh or Persat Singh or Pabur Singh or just Singh, as you morphed the name while you were there, you were a Sikh, definitely a Sikh. So it wasn't only Hindus and Muslims that came, but Hindus, Muslims, and Sikhs. But for the Muslims now, they established their namaz or their prayers. And in 3 Miles River area of Westmoreland, one Imam Hussein arrived there and established what he knew of Islamic practice in Westmoreland. The same was done by a Mr. Muhammad Khan, who died in 1973, in Spanish Town, and the Gulab family in the 1890s. So these people established what they knew from India of their religious beliefs in Islam here in the Jamaican construct.
You are listening to the Voice of Islam.
Some of the names of the Indian families that came from India to Jamaica are the Khans, the Gulabs, the Ni'mats, the Bakos, the Aslams, and the Husseins. They came and established what they could of Islam. I personally saw one in the Four Paths area in Clarendon last year, and I asked her by the Four Paths Bakery what was her religious background. She said it was Islam, but there was a loss too amongst a portion of the Indians, such as her, as some of the Indians took on names such as Williams, Bryan, Scott, MacDonald, and with the Scots Presbyterian and Moravian ministers, some of them did convert. There's some in Maypen that I've met as well and asked them about their religious background, and you could see definitely that there was an Islamic background amongst them. And it should be noted also about India, between 1838 and 1840s coming on up, all of the region that is India now, it's not all India now, but you have to remember that there was partition in August of 1947. So a part of India became Pakistan. And of course, some of the regions, some dispute was not a part of it, but the majority of Pakistan was India. And in August of 1948, Sri Lanka, which was a part of India, and the eastern part of Pakistan, or what was called East Pakistan, became officially Bangladesh on the 16th of December 1971. 16th of December 1971. Of course, economic migration took place during the time of the Ottoman Empire, which was in its heydays in the 1800s, but started to fall in the late 1800s, going into the early 1900s. And you'll find with this economic migration and the groups that are here, You have the Africans who are, almost totally Christians now, but they have some faint idea of their religious past, similar to those in the South Carolina, Georgia, and Mississippi. But in 1880, people started coming from the province of Syria. At that time, Lebanon was not a country, it was a province of Syria. So the families that came primarily between 1880 to the 1890s and the early 1900s to Jamaica were the Yunus family, the Siaga family, the Zaka family, the Matar family, the Shadids of Shadid's bookstore fame and halfway tree. I recall that clearly. The Amars, the Azars or the Azars, the Fiani family, the Haddad family, the Shukir family, the Dabdoob family, as in Abe Dabdoob. Those people came from what's known as the Levant area or Bilad Sham. What's Bilad Sham known as in Arabic? Lebanon, Palestine, Jordan, and Syria. But the people who came first were Christians to Jamaica. The Muslims came after. There are some Shakirs in Jordan that are Muslims, and there are some Haddads in that from Lebanon and Syria area that are also Muslims. But Christians came predominantly first. The same thing happened in North Dakota, Iowa, Michigan, Oklahoma, and Texas. For instance, in Stillwater, Texas, Stillwater, Oklahoma, and Tulsa, Texas, there are a lot of people who came from Lebanon in the 1870s, 1880s, and 1890s. The Muslims from that group now were at a minority, but they always involved themselves in business in the downtown areas. Now, with the movements that evolved at that time, the movement that began within the mainland United States of America had a branch in Jamaica, and that group, of course, I mentioned in the last segment, that group is called the Nation of Islam. The Nation of Islam. It is, in all honesty, a pseudo-Islamic group because Muslims do not believe that God is a man or God appeared in the person of a man in Detroit or anywhere. We do not believe that the Almighty God, Allah, came in the person of a man called Rastafari Makonnen, who was born in 1892 and then was crowned Haile Selassie in 1930. No disrespect, but we don't believe that God has a beginning, and we don't believe God has an end. We do not believe that Muhammad is God. We do not believe that Jesus is God. We do not believe that Moses is God. We do not believe that God came in the form of Father Divine or Daddy Grace within the United States as well. We don't feel or we don't believe that the creator of the heavens and the earth could be other than the creator of the heavens and the earth. But anyway, there are many people there that joined this group that probably took a hold in the 60s in Jamaica, maybe in the late 60s and early 60s and early 70s. Several years ago, I made a phone call to Jamaican convert to Islam in Brooklyn, New York. He's now passed. May the one God have mercy upon him. And he told me that he became interested in Islam in 1966. His name was Akbar Muhammad. He said to me that his interest was piqued because he wanted an answer for religion, but I think he ended up attending what he understood as religious services on between Wildman and Charles Street in Kingston, which associated with the group the Nation of Islam. By 1978, between 1978 to 1980, the group had already been at 128 and a half or 128 and a quarter King Street. In 1980 to 81, Kensington Crescent became a place known as Masjid Bilal, and the Imam at that time was Dr. Abdul Hakim Quick. Between 1987 to 1989, thereabout, you can go to 24 Camp Road for the exact information. That same group moved to 24 Camp Road from Kensington Crescent. But what must be noted here that before 1980, in 1975, the man who claimed to be a messenger of God, messenger of Allah, Elijah Muhammad, died of congestive heart failure in Chicago. And his son Warithuddin Muhammad, his seventh child with his wife Clara Muhammad, became the leader. When he became the leader, in so many words, I'll paraphrase, what he said is that Fard Muhammad is not God, is not Allah, but Allah is the creator of the heavens and the earth, the Lord of the heavens and the earth. And that my father, Elijah Muhammad, is not a messenger of Allah, but the messenger of Allah, or the last of the messengers of Allah, is the Prophet Muhammad, upon whom be peace. He made this bold statement in Chicago in 1975. He made this statement again in New Orleans in 1976, and then the group became the American Muslim Mission. So a branch was here in Jamaica between 1975 to 1982, when people had to make the transition from this pseudo-Islamic group called the Nation of Islam to real Islam. The masjids that exist in Jamaica today are number about 13. The latest one is Masjid Al-Aziz in Portmore. Masjid Al-Aziz in Portmore. There is a masjid in Ocho Rios called Masjid Al-Hikmah. There's a masjid in Montego Bay between the corners of Corinaldi and Makati Street called the Islamic Dawah Center. There is a masjid in Mandeville near New Green Road called Masjidul Haq.
You are listening to the Voice of Islam.
Masjid Ar-Rahman, built in 1957 as a purpose-built masjid. There was a masjid at one stage in Clarendon at a place called Portland Cottage, but that is now defunct. Masjid Al-Hussein at 3 Miles River in Westmoreland, in the parish of Westmoreland, sometimes known as Savannah Lamar area. Masjid Ibrahim in Riversdale in the parish of St. Catherine, and Jamia Masjid, the central masjid in Kingston at 24 Camp Road. Those are the 13 places of worship that I could recall in the island of Jamaica at this time. Jamaica's Muslims, as it's been proven, have been here for a long time, ever since the time of the explorers, and definitely during the time of the Mandingo explorers from Mali and the various parts of West Africa, as mentioned in the Explorer segment. But at this time, we would like to just make it clear that there were several people who did formal studies, and the Islamic University in Medina in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia have had people who were born in Jamaica, raised in other places, or born in Jamaica, raised in Jamaica, and have associated with the development of Islam in Jamaica. There are many, but the ones who we know of that have graduated from the Islamic University in Medina were the following. In 1979, 2 people from the Western Hemisphere, from the entire Western Hemisphere, graduated from the Islamic University of Medina. This is just truthful history, and these individuals were Canadian citizens at the time. One was born in Jamaica, the other was born in Boston, but have lived in Jamaica. And those 2 individuals are Dr. Bilal Phillips and Dr. Abdullah Hakim Quick. In 1997, another person graduated from the Islamic University of Medina by the name of Brother Sadiq. And in 1998, Brother Umar al-Jamaiki. In the year 2004, Brother Rashid. And between the years 2009 and 2010, that academic year, Brother Isa, Brother Ibrahim, and Brother Shahid graduated from the Islamic University of Medina. It is true that there have been individuals who have come and helped with the development of Islam in terms of visiting and giving dawah, and they may not be in Jamaica all the time, or they are in Jamaica every now and then, but they have contributed to the growth and development and the understanding of the Sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. And those individuals that I could remember, and I'm not intending to leave anyone out, Brother Abu Yusuf, currently in the UK, Brother Harun Cole, Brother Harun Rashid, Brother Abu Hakim Bilal Davis, Brother Abu Khadija Abdul Wahid Al-Alam, Brother Abu Idris Muhammad, the renowned Dawood Adib. There is another brother that I can't recall at this time, but may the one God forgive me. But those individuals have played a very good role in the onward progress of Islam, but that are not currently in Jamaica. Okay, continuing with the growth and development of the community, there are things that the Muslim community grapple with in terms of dealing with the general misconception from the general public, but we try to clarify those misconceptions, and we try our best to make sure that those misconceptions are corrected in a good and decent and nice manner. There is also a misunderstanding that had been mentioned, I think, in one of the previous segments, that this is an Arab religion. Well, let's look carefully. Yes, the Arab world consists of 22 different nations. If you add all the Muslims, or all the Arabs, because a lot of Arabs are not Muslims, such as in Lebanon, even Egypt, and Syria, and in Jordan, 10% at least. If you had all the Arabs up in the world, they cannot add up to the amount of Muslims in Indonesia alone. Okay? So of the 1.5 or 1.6 billion Muslims on the earth, only 20%, maximum 20% are Arabs, which is a clear delineation that, or clear point to us. Let us delineate that point, that it is not a faith that is for people who speak, read, and write, or their culture is that of an Arab. So you've got to remember, although that the last prophet was an Arab, we also know that the prophet Methuselah or Salih was an Arab. We also know that the prophet Hud or Eber was also an Arab. The prophet Jethro or Shu'aib, according to some scholars, was an Arab, but it did not make his message not fitting or welcoming for anyone who would travel from Persia or from Africa. It is true that Moses was an African-looking man. It is true that prophets came to various nations around the world. So this way of life, this international phenomena called Islam, it's not relegated to any particular place. It is not relegated to any particular national origin, and it does not belong to any particular ethnocentric or ethno-linguistic group on the face of the earth. That needs to be clarified. Another problem that we, or misconception that we face, that we think our dear audience needs to hear and get some clarification, and I'm going to tell you from the beginning where you can find information on it. You can Google this and order the book. It's by Amin Yasir Muhammad. Amin Yasir Muhammad. AMENYASIR MOHAMMED. That's his choice of spelling his name, MOHAMMED, because some will use MUHAMMAD. It doesn't really matter. But Amin Yasir Muhammad had a book out in 1994. It's not easily found. You may be able to find some used copies online. It's called Afrocentricity Minus Islam Cheats. It is an amazing book filled with evidences from primary sources as to why, if an individual tries to deal with African history in a comprehensive way and leaves out the Islamic reality or the Islamic variable, which is part and parcel of the African history in and of itself, then that is definitely not a good thing to do.
Thank you all for listening to The Voice of Islam, a weekly radio program organized by the Islamic Council of Jamaica to propagate the message of Islam, dispel the common misconceptions about Islam, and facilitate a medium to provide Islamic perspective on topical issues and alternative solutions. Remember, you may collect a free Quran, yes, a free Quran, by emailing us, sending a text message, or visiting any of our locations. Please send in your questions and comments to islamradiojm@gmail.com. That's islamradiojm@gmail.com, or by text message to 892-1350. That's 892-1350. You may also visit our Facebook page, facebook.com/Islamic Council of Jamaica, or find us on Instagram at ICOJ_official, or you may listen to a past episode on our YouTube channel, Islamic Council of Jamaica. You may also visit any of the following locations: Islamic Council of Jamaica, 24 Camp Road, Kingston 4. Masjidul Aziz, Portmore Central Plaza, West Tradeway, Portmore. Masjidul Rahman, Windsor Road, Spanish Town. Islamic Dawah Center, 1 Makati Street, Montego Bay. Masjidul Hakim, 138 Main Street, Ocho Rios. Masjid As-Sabr, Albany, St. Mary. Masjid Hussein, 3 Miles River, Westmoreland. Masjidul Haq, New Green Road, Mandeville. Masjid An-Nur, Port Maria, St. Mary. Masjidul Ihsan, West End Road, Negril. Masjid Al-Taqwa, Newell, St. Elizabeth. Masjid Ibrahim, Riversdale, St. Catherine. Masjid As-Sakina, 26 Miriam Way, Montego Bay. Peace be upon you all. Assalamu alaikum.